Hello and welcome to North Coast Journal Preview. This is a show where we take a look at the current edition of the North Coast Journal. My name is Matt Knight. I'll be your host for today. Tanya is away with some parrot heads in another part of the country, so I'll be filling in. I'm joined today by North Coast Journal's news editor, Thad Greenson, and North Coast Journal's arts and features editor, Jennifer Fomika Cahill. Greetings.
How you doing, Matt?
You know, I'm fighting a good fight. I'm hanging in there as best as I possibly can.
Much as can be asked some days.
That's right. It's
more than.
These are the times that try, well, I would say men's soul, but everyone's souls. So anyway, just, you know, keep headed in a forward direction.
One foot in front of the other.
That's right. So let's talk about what is on the cover of the North Coast Journal this week.
Yeah, this week we have a story by digital editor Kimberly Weir, who dove into the sad news of last week, which was that B7, the youngest of the California condors introduced as part of the Yurok tribe-led effort, had passed away due to lead poisoning. So Kim, who is, I have to say, has been very vested in the condors in general. She really enjoys watching the condor cams and has been reporting on the project since its inception. Took some time to catch up with Tiana Williams-Clausen, who's the wildlife director for the Yurok tribe, and just kind of talk about B7's passing, what it means, and just the pervasive threat that lead ammunition poses to wildlife in general, but especially these condors due to their scavenger nature.
Right, and one of the things I took away from the article is it's a tiny choice but a huge impact. And so, what exactly is the choice for hunters?
Yeah, so lead ammunition has been outlawed in California for some years now, but is still apparently fairly widely in use by some. And so they don't know when it comes to B7. They don't know the origin of the pellet, but a single kind of lead buckshot pellet was found in his gizzard area, and was enough to be fatal. Tiana told Kim that sometime back in January they got a mortality alert from B7's tracker, and that's an alert that comes when the bird has kind of stopped moving. And it can be due to a number of things. It can just be that they're hunkering down in a storm, or that they're ill, or they've been injured, or have passed. And so they sent out a kind of a recovery team and found B7's body in a wooded area. And so they don't have any idea where the pellet came from, but presume that it was feeding on something that had been shot with lead buck.
And I think one of the other really amazing facts is that it takes just an infinitesimal amount of lead to kill a bird. It's like the size of a pinhead will actually kill a condor.
Yeah, and there's a wonderfully informative infographic in the story that shows how, I guess, lead ammunition is more brittle in nature than other forms of ammunition. So when it makes impact into an animal, it actually it breaks apart. And so even if a hunter were trying to be conscientious and went in and tried to relieve the shell, or not the shell, but the bullet itself, there's enough kind of detritus from that bullet in whatever's left of the carcass to infect and kill an animal as big as a condor.
I guess from a hunting standpoint, and you were out and you were like shooting at a deer and you wanted venison and all that sort of thing. I think I would wonder what the amount of lead would be in the meat that I would be consuming if I went out and shot an animal that way. I mean, it just seems like a no-brainer that you would not want to contaminate your own animal carcass with a deadly poison.
It would seem like a no-brainer, yeah. I mean, lead is nasty stuff, and I don't know why you would want to, treat your meat with lead. It seems like a bad idea.
So you mentioned that it is actually illegal in California, lead ammunition. Is that true? I had heard that it was just prescribed, I guess, or recommended.
No, it started with a recommendation, but it is illegal to hunt with lead ammo in California now. Yeah. The issue is there's still, lots of lead ammo in circulation in California, and lead ammunition is not illegal for other uses. It's frequently used in this. As Kim documents in the story, there have been other, very close calls with this Condor population, which again are, kind of known as nature's cleanup crew just because they are prolific scavengers. But there's been issues of finding. I think there was poached elk that were contaminated with lead bullets within the condor's range, and then 2 of the condors have previously been ill with lead poisoning and had to undergo treatment at the zoo.
I should point out that the lead ammo users have consistently made it onto our Dick Moves list because it's like the definition, right? It's unnecessary and it's like just harmful with literally no benefits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Tiana, talked to Kim about, kind of when they were starting this project, the biologists and whatnot working on it, really bracing themselves for the fact that, of the likelihood that that some of these condors, would die. And that's just with a reintroduction effort of this size, that's almost an inevitability. And so they were kind of braced for that reality. But then to have a death occur for something that she said is so preventable and is so human caused was really, crushing to some members of the team.
And it is far and away the biggest cause of death for condors, isn't it? Isn't it something like 50% or half of all condor deaths are lead poison related?
Yep, that's the figure that's in the story. And it's widely believed, that is, the biggest threat to this reintroduction effort.
Wow.
is lead contamination.
Well, any final thoughts on this before we move over to Jen?
I would say that I encourage everybody to read the full story. There are some glimmers of good news in there as far as this. This is two cohorts have been introduced so far, and the second cohort, I guess, is acclimating to life in the wild, so to speak, much more quickly than the first. And so there are some just positive signs that the reintroduction effort overall is seeing success as it prepares to welcome a third cohort that's going to be released later this year.
Well, that's something, I guess. Well, thank you, Thad.
Thanks, Pat.
So let's move over to Jen and see what she's got cooking for us.
Indeed. And it is a different kind of bird story. Although if you do know who's been using the lead ammo out there, tell us. We just want to talk. Anyway, I made it over last week to the Six Rivers Brewery's annual wing competition. And I went for a couple of reasons. One, just to cover it, and also because our California news fellow, Anto, was there competing. She was the only woman among 14 competitors ready to put down as many wings as she possibly could in a 3-minute space. And
go Annie.
Yes, it was a sight to behold. It was troubling to watch, and I did stain my shirt trying to wing. So I feel like I had the full experience. But they do this every year, and this year I think is the 21st anniversary for the brewery. And so it started, everybody sort of milling around on the patio. And then Chef Jeremy comes out with this giant stainless steel bowl, the first of, I think, 3 giant stainless steel bowls filled with spicy wings. And these are not the spicy wings that are normally for sale at the brewery. These are a special one that he does, a special sauce that he does for the competition. And I must tell you, I love spicy food. It does not love me. And I can't handle it. Listen, I'm Japanese and Irish. We have nothing to prove. And it comes out, and the air, as it flows over and the breeze hit me, I could feel it in my jaw and my neck. Do you know what I mean?
Oh
When you
yeah.
start to feel the spiciness.
I'm
and
a
you
spice wimp myself, so.
It's like that feeling you get when you reach the top of the roller coaster and you're like, was this a mistake? Was this a mistake? So he comes out, he starts distributing, and also the co-owners, Meredith Mayer and Talia Nachson, were there with tongs distributing these incredibly saucy wings. I will say this, I have not had wings that had more sauce on them. If you thought you were going to escape by not getting too much sauce, I'm sorry, you were not. It was this dark brown, very earthy spice. And I must tell you that when I bit into it, I thought, does Chef Jeremy hate me? It was a painful spice. It stayed with you and it got worse. And then about 20 minutes later, as I was sort of weeping in the car on the way home, my tongue still hurt like somebody went over it with one of those lovely fine cheese graters that you use for Parmesan, to a microplaner. So with that in mind, Annie put the spice at about a 7 after the experience. And, you know, we got there just as she was about to start, just as the competition was about to start. She gave us a sort of panicked thumbs up. And then it began. And when it started, these people went from these, you know, guys kind of shoving each other and laughing and teasing each other and bragging on everything they thought they could do, to suddenly it was very real. Once they took that first bite of wings and started shoving it down, you have, as I said, 3 minutes to get down as much as you can. The previous year's winner made it to 18.
Wow.
Eating 18 wings in a sitting will change you a little bit. But eating 18 wings in 3 minutes, I don't know who I would be at the end of that. But right next to Annie, and you must know that Annie is a slip of a thing. She is a small woman. She's underneath one of these pillows right now behind me. You can't see her. But next to her was this enormous guy, Marcus Gooch.
Yes.
And he's about 6'4". And he got on his knees to get close to the table and really just be right there and just shove the chicken into his mouth. And when I saw him bearing down on this plate, I thought, this is the guy.
Like a steamroller.
Yeah, I walked back and forth along that table, but I was like, this guy came to win. And in fact, he did win. He made it through 20 wings.
Wow.
And yes, it was less than he was aiming for, which was amazing.
Well, one thing I noticed, Jen, in the story was that Marcus started out spice averse, shall we say?
Yes.
And yet somehow managed to choke down all of these wings in a very spicy wings at that. And I found that amazing. I guess if you destroy your taste buds, you know, then you can do anything, I suppose.
Then you're free. Free, Matt. Yeah, he was a guy who was not into spice. He said he used to worry about too much black pepper. He was afraid of a jalapeno. And then, I don't know, God reached down and touched him. I don't know. Somehow his best friend got him into eating spicy food, and he got so into it that he started growing his own peppers. And he's worked before as a chef. He's currently a restaurant manager, and he has just gotten heavy into it. And now he rated the wings at about a 4 on the spiciness scale, which really shocked me. I've certainly eaten things that were hotter, but I would not say that those were 4. Anyway, he's got the power, and he also had some technique. He told me when I was first talking to everybody before it started, I said, "You're not going to drink any water?" And he said, "No." And he told me later, he said, "It's not a water and beer competition." And he shared some techniques for those of you who aspire to beat him, because he will be back next year.
Has a title to defend.
Yes, that's right. He's got to defend his gem-encrusted chicken claw that he won, and I presume he just gets to keep the bottle of Pepto-Bismol and the bottle of Tums. I assume those are not to be returned.
Come on, ice cream.
Yeah. I know. I wanted a gallon of ice cream just to put my whole head in. So he suggested taking the big side of a flat, the larger end of a flat, the sort of two-bone wing part, shoving the whole thing in your mouth and pulling away like a Tom and Jerry cartoon and just pulling all the meat off that way.
Okay.
It's certainly faster than my preferred method, which is to twist the wing, pull out one bone, and then remove all the meat. That's how classy I look in a bar. But
with pinky finger extended thusly.
Of course, because I'm a lady. His method for the drum was not to put the whole thing in your mouth and pull back, as I have seen some people attempt, but the teeny tiny corn cob method of turn and bite, turn and bite, turn and bite. The photograph of him in the paper where he is growling over a plate of bones, I believe there are a couple of pieces that had not yet been eaten on that plate. And so it's deceiving. But when I looked down on his plate of bones, they were pretty empty. They were not just sort of bitten into and discarded. But I think the photo, I realized, sort of obscures, because there's a couple of pieces that he hadn't eaten yet in the front that were not counted as bones. So I don't want anybody disrespecting the work of Marcus the Gooch, Big Gooch.
A true master of the sport.
Yeah, a true ambassador of the sport. He also said, I thought this was encouraging. He said that once you start eating, he said, if you ate one wing, the damage is already done. Why are you stopping? You might as well keep going. And those are the words that I'm going to have cross-stitched onto a pillow and put in my office, because I feel all of us need, say about 3 o'clock when you're at work, just say to yourself, you ate one wing, the damage is done. You might as well keep going.
Words to live by.
Words to live by. Thank you, Gooch. Also, I should say that Annie had some advice. She said that she feels her downfall. She made it to 7 wings. She tied 3 gentlemen with the 7-wing max out. She said that she feels like she kind of made a mistake early on because she shoved a bunch of chicken in her mouth, and then the heat kind of hit her all at once as she was trying to chew it all down. She bit off more than she could chew, folks. And then the spiciness had time to hit her, and it was kind of her downfall, and it slowed down her pace.
Well, I would assert that maybe the mistake was actually doing the contest, but that's just me.
That might have been. And I should also say that I'm not saying that Marcus is a ringer, but he was able to previously put down 12 wings in 1:04. So
wow. Before
you come for the king.
Yeah, you better be ready.
Practice, yeah.
Better be ready to rumble. Well, thank you for that story, Jennifer. That'll be our palate cleanser for what's going to be our next story. Thad's got a news story for us that it's not a happy one. So let's jump back to Thad.
Yeah, I mean, I think most weeks I'm a downer, but this week I feel especially sour. So I did some reporting this week on, just continuing reporting, I guess I should say, on continued fallout from executive actions of the Trump administration that are starting to hit home in Humboldt County here on the North Coast. And so specifically looked at 3 things. Some cancellation of USDA grants that had been really impactful here and had carried a lot of hope for some future development. And then also a threat letter that was sent to Cal Poly Humboldt, which is now under federal investigation with the threat of pulled federal funding. And then lastly, the ongoing layoffs and office closures of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. So all these three issues had promised to have or could have very large impacts here. The USDA programs actually tie into a story that Jen had reported on for us. I don't know, a year or so ago, but the Harvest Hub, which is a North Coast Growers Association project that really acts as kind of a liaison to set up small farmers with big purchasers. So with schools, Food for People, and others. And both schools, education facilities in Humboldt County and Food for People had leveraged USDA grants specifically designed to allow them to buy local produce. And so this was, I think, Megan Kinney at the North Coast Growers Association told me that their grant had brought in about $1 million to local farms over the past year. And both these grants have been canceled. One is expiring in September and the other in September of 2026. But they'd hoped that these would be kind of year after year grants. And, as Megan explained it to me, especially economically impactful. So there's kind of reverberating impacts. But so on the one hand, on kind of the consumer end, Food for People has much less local produce to share with its 21,000 clients who are food insecure on the North Coast. So that means they're still getting food every week, but they're getting less produce and specifically less locally grown produce. So there's nutrition impacts of that. There's climate impacts of that because they're now having to import produce from other parts of the state. But then there's the economic impact on the other side, which is that this was money coming in from outside the county to local farmers, local business owners who would then spend that money, pay employees with that money. So it would just kind of reverberate through the local economy and really provide a boost. Kind of a multifaceted impact there. And then, of course, with the school nutrition programs, that's school kids in Humboldt County now, eating less nutritious stuff. More prepackaged stuff. So, very sad development on that front with the USDA grants. With the NOAA offices, we've now received word that both the NOAA office in Eureka and Arcata are going to close. Now, this isn't the Weather Service office out on Woodley Island. These are fisheries focused and habitat restoration focused offices. And it's just really unclear at this point, what the exact impacts of those closures are going to be, whether those employees are going to stay locally, whether they're going to be laid off, whether their work will continue. One of the really frustrating things about reporting on all of this is just the opacity of this administration, and it's impossible to get a straight out answer out of spokespeople for any of these entities about what's happening, what's coming, what it means. And on top of that, with NOAA, there's also rumored to be another 1,000 layoffs coming nationwide, which Congressman Huffman has warned will have could have pervasive impacts on an already understaffed agency. And then finally, on the Cal Poly Humboldt front, they had received a Dear Colleague letter from the Department of Education back in February, kind of advising that there was allegations that the letter is very widespread, saying that there's basically racial discrimination going on at Humboldt and at Cal Poly Humboldt, taking the form of everything from quote unquote segregated commencement ceremonies to DEI practices and curriculum that denigrates the history of the United States, quote unquote. And then that was followed up by this announcement by the Department of Education that the university is actually under investigation. And it seems like primarily that the focus of that investigation is its contract with a third party that basically provides support for graduate students on campus, and specifically for minority graduate students, and supporting them toward both getting their graduate degree and then translating that into a career advancement.
Wow. Well, I mean, I could only refer people to Congressman Huffman's characterization of this whole thing, and it's not something that we can repeat on a family show. So you get an idea his opinion of all that, and but wow, what a impact. Well, I guess we'll see what the impact is on our local community.
It's not going to be great, it seems.
I think there's a real tragic irony to this in that so much of the campaign for the Trump administration talks about real Americans and farmers and people who, work the land, etc. And here we are seeing farmers, kids at school, and fisheries all taking the brunt of the punishment for this. And it's really sad to see.
Yeah, I think they might have been talking about ConAgra when they said farmers, but that's another story for another day. Thad and Jen, thanks so much for being here. North Coast Journal's current edition is out on newsstands now. Go out and get a copy, or get two and give it to somebody you love. You can find out more at northcoastjournal.com. Tanya will be back next week, thankfully, and I hope everybody has a good week. Thanks a lot.